The typhoon that hit the Philippines last week has killed as many as 10,000 people. And yet, when I open today's New York Times, it's a page 6 story. Stories about trade with China, a new study that tells us who should and who shouldn't be taking statins to lower their cholesterol. Those are page 1 stories. Now, it's true there's a nice picture of people suffering on page 1, but no coverage, no actual story about what's going on in the Philippines and the 10,000 dead and the hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of lives that have been radically altered by the terrible events surrounding the typhoon. So what are we to make of all that? I think, among other things, is that we know the world is shrinking, but this tells us it's shrinking in some pretty odd ways, maybe ways that aren't so positive, but if we can get a handle on what they are, we could do something about. Clearly, urgency is not the issue and what makes it into the headlines and what keeps us up at night. If it were, then the 10,000 dead would surely trump whether or not we take a cholesterol-lowering medication or not. So if urgency isn't the issue, what is? Proximity. I think what happens is the stories which affect us most immediately are the ones which make it to page 1, to the top of our minds, to keeping us up at night. So yes, the world is shrinking, but it's shrinking in a way that makes it smaller and brings things closer to us when they affect us directly. But it may not be shrinking nearly as quickly in terms of our ability to respond to world events. And I think that's really the key. If I look at my own personal reaction, how the New York Times and other news agencies are covering the story, the takeaway from this past week and what's continuing to unfold in the Philippines is that the fact that we live in a shrinking world doesn't mean that our capacity for compassion has expanded to keep pace with how close certain things are. That the economy of China will affect how we buy gasoline and bread in this country, that's page 1, because it's our life. But a typhoon kills 10,000 miles away, and the world is back to being a very big place. That's someone else's problem. Can our sense of neighborhood expand to include even those who are 10,000 miles away? I don't know if the answer is yes or no, but I do know this. If we begin to ask that question more often, my guess is that just as many events in the world come home to us more immediately, our capacity to bring care, compassion, concern, and relief to others far away will also expand.